Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the number one network in the United States of America. And also Charlton and Big C Sports is voted number one in the galaxy, Big C, according to Big C and his good old boys down south. And no hanging chads actually saw some meteorites this morning. I think there were also some spaceships flying by. I heard them pounding out Charlton and Big C Sports, Big C. And also I want to say welcome to all of our good old boys down in Latin America. So bienvenidos to you. Of course, the great people across the pond in London, and also I want to say Paris, France. Thank you so much for tuning in to Charlton and Big C Sports. And the great country of Canada, sorry so much about screwing up your national anthem, Big C, but I'm going to learn it. I'm going to learn it in Spanish next time so they can't tell what I'm doing wrong.
You don't have to learn it. We got hockey season.
Oh my God.
We got to play a lot of that. We got to get you practicing on those fights.
Well, thank you for all the pressure, Big C. I could really use that. And also the great United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C?
Charlton, we can also tell that it's fall weather down here. And now Alabama will start playing real football. You got a chance to see with Texas A&M. They're done with the preseason. They kicked off the season with their first practice game.
I knew you were going to say that.
They've been rolling ever since.
Roll Tide.
College football, the NFL, everything is going on. This perfect. Baseball is 2 games away from the World Series. The WNBA championship wrapped up last night.
Magic Johnson with another championship. I mean, Magic Johnson like the only NBA player to retire and still win championships. Big C, so a lot of magic. Maybe he'll work some of that magic for the Dodgers as they take on the Cubs. And in his pivotal game, Big C is now down to the best of 3 with the Dodgers and the Cubs. If you don't like baseball right now,
best of 2, Charlton.
Best of 2. You're right, best of 2 right now.
It's down to the best of 2.
Yeah, it's going to be a great series. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think anyone can beat up on Clayton Kershaw, but we will definitely find out. And congratulations, WNBA champions out of Los Angeles. The Lakers, it's amazing. The basketball team in Los Angeles, the last one in championship, is not the LA Lakers, Big C. What's going on with WNBA taking over in Southern California, Big C?
Well, Charlton, you got to give praise to the LA Sparks and the Minnesota Lynx, even though they lost just a great competitive championship. The WNBA only goes to best of 5 in a series, but it went all 5 games, and it came down to a 1-point game, 76-75 last night. The way a championship game should be decided, Charlton, not in a blowout. And Candace Parker, former great University of Tennessee All-American basketball player under Pat Summitt, won her first professional championship last night, and she dedicated the victory to her late head coach, Pat Summitt, Charlton. Just a great emotional feeling that you get. And you mentioned about Magic Johnson. Still winning championships. Magic Johnson, the businessman now, understands the prosperity of the WNBA. And you think about it, the WNBA being talked about in the middle of the baseball championship and also the middle of the NFL season. But, they've done a wonderful job. These ladies are great talent, and they put on a wonderful performance last night. I mean, you may not get the dunks in the NBA, but you get fundamental basketball, Charlton, and they play it at the highest.
Well, speaking of playing it at the highest level, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Not the Big C they put on the NFL Network, but the Big C on Charlton and Big C Sports, Big C. It's so funny because with that new dirty Cadillac Escalade, there's something called the reticular activating system. Once you see something once, you start seeing it more. I know we had some snow out here in California in the past week. A lot of people go up to Lake Tahoe. It's about an hour-and-a-half drive. I think they all drive Escalades and they get them dirty, Big C, just because of you, Big C. How'd you start that trend, Big C?
Well, Charlton, one of the things that's going to hurt is these car washes, not just all these clean and stuff. But, it's something with character. When you think about it, you got to know what you're doing. You got to put the mud in a particular place.
Yeah.
You got to drive through the right type of mud, Charlton. It's not going to wash off when it starts raining.
Yeah. And some good old boys out in Dubai, they drive the Ferraris and the other kind of cars too. But I think Escalade is going to be a very popular vehicle in Dubai because you don't have to worry about washing off the sand, Big C. They think mud and sand's the same thing. But also, I want to say today is a beautiful October the 21st, 2016. I absolutely love what we do, Big C. And I do want to touch on something before we get into the NFL. We've also talked about a little bit of baseball coming up and the WNBA championships. I do want to touch on this thing that the NFL has all over the USA Today and every newspaper, every news station. They're talking about something that I thought it was Groundhog Day, Big C. We were talking about Josh Brown about 2 weeks ago, Big C. What's taking like a 2-week delay? A month ago.
We started talking about Josh Brown and his assault on his former wife, the continuous repetitive nature of what he had done, Charlton. And now all of a sudden, because of everybody listening to it, whether it's Fox, whether it's ESPN, whether it's the NFL Network stealing Big C's characters, putting it on air, stealing Big C's pictures with Julio Jones, taking him out in ESPN. But, now they've given credence to what we say, Charlton. We've been talking about Josh Brown for the past month, how the NFL allowed him to continue playing and gave him a light slap on the hand with a 1-game suspension, even though they had over 20 documented incidents, Charlton. And let me say about the most appalling part about this, Charlton.
What's that?
John Mara. Mara,
what a joke.
Of the New York Giants. The family owns the team. He's the president of the organization. 2 years ago, in the Ray Rice incident, he said, these are not the type of people that we will tolerate in the league or in our society. Okay? Here's a guy who was well-versed in what Josh Brown had done as a kicker, kicking his wife's butt, Charlton. And he was the one responsible for moving the wife when they were at the Pro Bowl to another hotel so Josh Brown would not have access to her, Charlton. And so here it is, he's being hypocritical about an African-American player in Ray Rice and Greg Hardy, but he has a white kicker on his team, Charlton, that has over 20 incidents. These guys didn't have 20. That had over 20 incidents.
Well, Big C,
he covered for it. Talking about he did not have access to everything. Josh Brown told him what he was doing. So it came from the horse. It's like Donald Trump. You hear it coming out of my mouth, but it's not.
But it's not me.
Josh Brown did that.
Well, see, the thing with our society, Big C, and I love Big C Sports, but it doesn't mean we're sycophants to just sports. I hear some guys that go, this is a sports station, as if they're not intelligent enough to talk about anything more than who scored a touchdown. But I just want to say this to all of the women in our society, and we're going to say it. We've been saying it for over a year now. There's no excuse for violence against women in any form. And I think with Mr. Mara and even Donald Trump, they're both good old boys, okay? That's just a fact. They have this thing called white skin privilege. And the shame in it is that nobody really cares if you're rich and white, if you're just passive about protecting women. And unfortunately, some women don't even care. They defend these guys because they have money. If these guys are poor, blue-collar guys that work for $25,000 a year, they would be calling 911 on this behavior. I just want to say this before we get into some of the NFL. And I think we talked about this for over a year now. And the NFL can do a great job in saying no violence. But domestic violence happens every 20 seconds in our country. Some woman is being beaten up or abused by her partner. Okay, most of these women are Caucasian. Even though when a black man does it, they get this guy the death penalty and they kick him off of a team. He can't find a job again, and they try to show it in the paper all the time. It just happens. A lot of white guys, they beat up their wives with impunity, and they make it like it's just a joke. Like Donald Trump says, it's just locker room talk. And I want to bring this up before we get into the NFL. Everyone needs to pay attention to this. You're going to hear about it. Maybe they're going to hide it. But this Monday night football game, all the networks are talking about Brock Osweiler going back into Denver to play the Denver Broncos that traded him to Houston for $72 million. Right, Big C? Brock Osweiler is a Caucasian. He's a Caucasian quarterback. And people say race doesn't matter. Watch the documentary 13 before you even have an opinion about what I'm saying here. He's a Caucasian quarterback. He's seen on tape. Something that you can see on tape and they say, well, you're going to believe me or your eyes? On tape, pushing a woman twice coming out of a pizza parlor in Texas. Twice. Brock Osweiler, $72 million, 6'8", 200-and-something pound man with impunity. No talk about it more than maybe 3 minutes on ESPN. They pushed it under the carpet. In that same time frame, there's been thousands of women battered across the country because this behavior has been excused. Well, he's just, being what Donald Trump say, locker room talk, locker room behavior. The NFL will not touch on this guy. They're going to promote this game on Monday Night Football. It could be an excellent teaching moment for all the women being battered right now while their guys watch football and drink beers. And all they're going to hear about Brock Osweiler is he's making $72 million. He has a losing record in his history as a starter. and you're not going to hear about domestic violence and how to fix it. They're going to focus on Brown, but there's a lot of players. If he was an African-American, he would probably be off the team by now, Big C. And as we get into that, I just want to say this segment is sponsored by your California Lottery. What can a buck do for you, Big C? I'm telling you, you were saying that you're going to hear about Josh Brown, and it's all over the media today as if it's Groundhog Day, Big C. So I congratulate you on being prescient. But, Big C, be prescient with the lottery. I've been spending $1 like every day trying to win this thing, and I want you to start saying we're going to win the lottery. I can feel it. I already feel like it's going to happen.
It got you to get you to invest more than this coin stuff, but that's what Josh Brown is.
Yeah.
The league enforced 2 years ago with the Ray Rice an automatic 6-game suspension any type of domestic violence allegation.
Yeah.
We've seen that with African American players get that.
Yeah.
We talked about Ricky Jean Francois with the San Francisco 49ers. They just cut him.
Yeah.
You know what they did for Josh Brown today, Charlton, the commissioner? He put him on the commissioner's exempt list.
Yeah.
So he's allowed to be paid, Charlton. That's an indefinite. You know, where he should have been cut.
Well, let me ask you, Big C.
Put him on the exempt list, so he still makes his $72,000 a week sitting around camp, and he can still go to the facility. He can still be with the team.
Yeah.
But Ray Rice was suspended. That means you're not around the facility. Tom Brady was suspended for allegedly letting air out of football while he was playing the game.
Yeah.
He couldn't go on deal with the teammates. Josh Brown can not only beat the crap out of his former wife, but he keeps playing. He's put on the commissioner's exempt list so he can keep getting paid.
Yeah.
And he's not cut from the team.
Yeah.
How does this happen, Charlton?
Because he's Caucasian, Big C. Everyone should watch. You got to watch the documentary 13th. I don't care what. If you call yourself an American, it's even something that people should watch around the world because in this country, we're supposed to be the leaders. And I know some guys, they're just dumb, and they got a microphone, and they can only talk about the Reds beat the Astros 6-4, and the Yankees over the Cubs 7-5, because that's as deep as they can go. But if you have a mother or a daughter or a wife or a sister or any women that you like or appreciate, they shouldn't be beaten up by anybody, Big C.
I kind of disagree with you there, saying that's as deep as they can go. Because a lot of these guys who are broadcasting live their lives that way also. Okay?
Yeah.
They live their lives that way also, but they cover it up. Because you look at it, with the amount of money that they're making in broadcasting and playing sports, the wife is looking at what options do I have?
Yeah.
Do I stay here and take this abuse? And that's what Brown's wife was under.
Yeah.
You know, and then who's going to believe her? You got this professional athlete, you got this professional broadcaster. Who's going to believe me? We just saw this scenario in the Derrick Rose civil rape trial in Los Angeles. Who's going to believe me? I'm a woman.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't go to law enforcement, but I go to court and I got to deal with this embarrassment and shame.
Yeah.
Such as the Stanford student who was raped by the swimmer.
Yeah.
She goes to court dealing with all this embarrassment and shame. She gets 6 months in 2003. So this sends a message to the women of America.
Yeah.
If you go there, we're going to embarrass you. We're going to rub you through the street. We're going to give the guy every opportunity to have credibility and give you none because you must have wanted this to happen to you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been passed out and drunk.
Yeah, and that's
You wouldn't have stayed there. You wouldn't have stayed in the house with your children not having a place to go, and he had access to all the finances. Why didn't you leave? Because what? You didn't have no money, no credit card?
Yeah.
So you're going to take your children, go live under a bridge? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you going to sit there and take this abuse because your children and you're trying to protect them and their welfare?
Well, ironically, when you talk about that, what goes on, and I want to be an advocate for women because I have women in my life that I care about, and you don't have to have a woman in your life. Just, I don't want to see women being abused just because they're weaker than men physically for the most part. I don't think you should take advantage of people because they're stronger than them. And I know a lot of people, I like
to see one of these 50 kids take on Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Let Dennis Brown take on Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Let Mark Osweiler take on Ronda Rousey. Let's see what happens if they take on a woman who can physically dominate them.
Yeah.
None of them will touch her. Get in the ring with Ronda Rousey. Show me how tough you are, Josh Brown, Mark Osweiler. Do that. She's an MMA world champion. Go in there and show us how tough you can be versus this woman.
Well, Big C,
defend herself.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. And before we get into the NFL, I just want to say to everyone, watch 13th. You got to see it, especially if you're a woman. It's must-see documentary. It's on Netflix. Her name is DuVernay, and it's called 13th. You got to see it. Let your daughter see it. Please let the men see it too. But some men, like Donald Trump, they'll say, oh, it's just good old boys being good old boys. But if you think about this, We have to take the bull by the horn, and we're the only program that's going to do it. That's why we're #1 rated in the universe, Big C, because we're honest and we're real talk, Big C. And I know a lot of people say, let's just talk about the game. No, because there are women out there who are being beaten up as we have this program on at this moment. And they need to know that someone's going to help them. And the help is called 911. It's not called be silent. It's not called be ashamed. It's not called, but we don't want him to lose his paycheck. It's called 911. So I appreciate Ray Rice. He's at least going around the country trying to teach people how not to harm women. And we got to understand that bullying, there's a no bullying zone going on. But especially for women, most women who are battered, they're not battered by athletes. They're battered by good old boys who have whatever excuse they have, like Donald Trump, who makes fun of grabbing a woman by her vagina and saying it's just good old boy talk. And it wasn't me talking. That was somebody else. That's the media that did it. It's his own talk. If someone came up and grabbed his wife by her private part, I wonder what he would do. Would he say, hey, it's just boys being boys? And I wonder how many women would defend that behavior. So I hope that women start saying, hey, this is serious. It's a culture that you establish when you do that, Big C.
Let me inject a little bit on this. You see his locker room talk. I watched the celebration of the LA Sparks last night in their locker room.
Yeah.
Toasting the champagne, holding it in a glass like ladies with class, okay?
Yeah.
I didn't hear one spewing of locker room talk about going over and grabbing some reporter in the crotch.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Or grabbing another player.
Yeah.
So it's not locker room talk. We saw it on television last night, on national television. There was not one woman in the locker room talking about grabbing somebody by the crotch. So it's not locker room talk. It's a damn lie told by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I played in the locker room for 20 years, Charlton, from high school to pro football. 20 years I spent in the locker room as a player and even almost as much time as a broadcaster.
Yeah.
And I never heard that. It never came up on tape because there would be tapes all over the place, Charlton, of this locker room talk because cameras and mics are running all the time during the interview sessions. And so they pick up every time in the locker room.
Yeah.
And there's no history of locker room talk being skewed like the trash coming out of Donald Trump's mouth.
Well, see, and that's the thing, too, because, and again, Tim Wise talked about it, it's called white privilege. And I hope that the NFL will show the commercial 13th because there's some things that are in that you can only find out when it's there. But, Big C, you brought a lot of this to my mind, and I just think about the fact that it's a sports show. Yes, it's a sports show, but a lot of sports people are not just ignorant people. And so that's what I love, what we talk about. And if I look at guys that are on television that have the microphone in front of them, I hope that they would do what we've been doing for over a year. Just remind everybody, there's no room for domestic violence against women, period. No room for it. Even if Donald Trump says it's okay, and even if people defend him, especially his own spouse, which is just a joke that she would do that, at least tell somebody they're wrong. That's the only way they're going to improve. Say you're wrong. Don't say it wasn't me. This story is concocted, BC. His own voice.
His wife lives in fear.
Yeah, I know she does.
Lives in fear. She was an illegal immigrant here in the U.S. He married her. And he said the other night during the debate, I didn't even apologize to her.
Yeah, I know it.
So she fears him.
Yeah,
he said he didn't even apologize to his wife. So she fears him.
Yeah, and people don't get that.
Really standing on her own. She's the wife of the potential president of the United States, and she does not even speak in his behalf in public.
Yeah.
So who's living in fear?
Well, I think that is so powerful, Big C. And as we transition into the NFL talk, I want to say this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 media company in the United States. We also are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society, and we work with all of the unions in the United States under the AFL-CIO. We get you guaranteed life insurance, no medical questions. Big C, as we get into Week 7 of the NFL, and I appreciate so much of what we bring, we'll go down the road really quickly. The New York Giants at 3-3, and they are playing versus the Los Angeles Rams. They're also 3-3. That game is Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That game's going to be London, played in London. And on the NFL Network, they have the Giants favorite by 3. Your thoughts on that game, Big C? Neither team has had much success running the football, but your thoughts on winning this game, Big C?
Well, Robbie Gould is going to be the new kicker now for the New York Giants.
Yeah.
And I think that's a disadvantage for them having a new kicker with timing and everything during the game. It's fine during practice.
Yeah.
But also, this is a team that has trouble on the ground, the New York Giants. So they have to rely on throwing the ball. And if we know England this time of year, it can get wet over there. So you can get the precipitation. And so I kind of give advantage to the Rams in this scenario, Charlton, the Giants, because they're going to have an emotional backlash from what just happened.
Oh, yeah.
Because these players on the team were aware. The coach was aware of what went on, and especially the owner of the team was aware. So now, this is in the back of their mind, more so than just playing football, is that we covered for this criminal element.
You know,
that's what we did as a team.
Yeah.
We covered for the criminal element. So I give the advantage to the Rams in this game, Charlton. Maybe they'll get Todd Gurley on track. Maybe Jeff Fisher will realize reality.
Yeah.
I have to run the ball to win in the NFL. I had Eddie George in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I was a winner. And now, I got Todd Gurley. Let me run him and get the same thing out of him I got out of Eddie George.
Yeah, and it's ironic with the NFL going over to London. They don't want Brown to go there because there would be more talking in London about domestic violence, about the NFL, and that would not be a way they want to brand the NFL coming into London, England, Big C. The number 2 game.
It's even going to follow with him not there.
Yeah.
Because the true question is not, why did you take so long? The English are not shy about asking the real question.
Yeah.
Why did you take so long? Why did you cover this up?
Yeah. Well, we understand that, Big C. And so thankfully they even listen to Charlton and Big C Sports in England. So they heard about this story a month ago, even though all the other networks are just now covered in Big C. The second game we'll get into is the New Orleans Saints. They're 2-3 on the season. They're at the Kansas City Chiefs, which are 3-2. That game's Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and that game is going to be broadcast on Fox. The Chiefs are favored by 6.5 points. And the way New Orleans scores points, even though they're 2-3, they can score with anybody because they have Drew Brees. Your thought on Drew Brees, and it may be a shootout game in this game, Big C.
When you think about Drew Brees, Charlton, he may be the best quarterback in the history of the NFL. When you think about the tools that he has to work with and the injury he had to overcome, he may be the best quarterback in the history of the NFL. He doesn't hold all the yardage records, all the touchdown records, or even all the Super Bowl records.
Yeah.
But you look at what he has worked with. He has worked with less in his entire career than every other Hall of Fame quarterback who has yards above him.
Yeah.
And he has worked without anybody. No running game. Really, the receiver that he has, nobody knows about him until he brings some great receivers. And, I love Drew Brees.
Yeah.
350 yards every game, almost a guarantee. You can bet on that. You can bet on his over and under in Vegas just on his yardage. But the Kansas City Chiefs right now, Andy Reid has their team playing.
Yeah.
They went through this same scenario last season, Charlton, when they got on that hot streak and won, 10, 11 games. And they're poised to do this right now. They went in those, Oakland last week, dominated the Raiders.
Yeah.
We've always felt that the Raiders lacked defensively, just like the New Orleans Saints. They lack defensively.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a slight edge to Kansas City and Alex Smith in this game, Charlton.
And when you look at Brees, he's 14 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions, so he's always consistent. The Chiefs, their pass defense is ranked number 12 in the NFL. They give up 236 yards per game, but Brees might even double that, Big C. The number 3 game, the Indianapolis Colts, they are 2-4 with a $144 million quarterback, Big C. They are actually on the road at the Tennessee Titans with Marcus Mariota. The Titans are 3-3. That game is Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. And the Titans are favored by 3 points in this game. I look at Marcus Mariota. He averages about 284 passing yards and 3 touchdowns last week. He even rushed for 64 yards last weekend. He's a big threat because their run game is really dominant. I see this game being won by Tennessee, even by more than 3 points, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you come to Indianapolis, who are you going to blame this week?
Yeah. Ghostbusters. They're going to blame Ghostbusters, Big C. Blame Ghostbusters.
You're not going to blame Andrew Luck.
Right.
It's not his problem. You're going to blame the receivers for getting open. He can't get the ball to him.
Yeah.
You're going to blame Frank Gore because the offensive line is not blocking for him. But, at some point, Andrew Luck is going to have to stand up and say, hey, I make $144 million.
Give some money away.
I should give you the top performance of all quarterbacks in the NFL every week.
Yeah.
I should not have an off day. I should not throw 2 interceptions, 3 interceptions. I should throw at least 3 touchdowns every game, and my team scores at least 35 every game because I put them in those positions offensively. So, we talked about this, Charlton, the value of black running backs in the NFL.
Yeah.
People say you can replace them. They're replaceable. What about these quarterbacks who are making all of this money and not winning? It's like having a running back that you're paying $5 million and he only gets you 500 yards on the season.
Yeah.
You replace him. You got to start looking at that with these quarterbacks. When you talk about Tennessee, Mike Mularkey's done a wonderful job putting together this young team. He sprinkled in a couple of veteran players when he brought in Murray, the running back, formerly of Dallas Cowboys. He drafted Derrick Henry in the 2nd round. Heisman Trophy went out of Alabama.
Yeah.
He brought in Delaney Walker a couple of years ago, former great tight end with the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers after they had their championship run. He assembled an offensive line. Mike Mularkey, former tight end in the NFL for a decade, knows how to play offense, Charlton, and he's assembled that. He's got Marcus Mariota. The difference this year between Mariota and last year, Charlton, is that he's healthy.
Yeah.
He's a healthy quarterback, and that makes the difference in the lineup.
Well, when you think about another game, the Minnesota Vikings, they are on top of the NFL. They're 5-0, Big C. They're at the Philadelphia Eagles, which got off to a fast start. They're 3-2. That game is Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time on Fox, and they have the Vikings favored by 3 on the road. And the amazing thing about the Vikings, they don't have Bridgewater. They don't have and they're all going to be a Hall of Famer running back in Peterson. They only average 70.6 yards per game. They're averaging 2.5 yards per rush attempt. Why are the Vikings undefeated and so dominant, Big C?
Why are the Vikings so undefeated and so dominant, Charles?
Yeah.
Can you spell defense?
Well, wait, hold on. Wait, you asked me a question. Defense, Big C. Defense. Go right ahead, Big C.
That's the question about the Minnesota Vikings and the hands all in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
The defense, Charlton. The most dominant defense we've seen in the NFL since the 1985 Bears. This team goes out, and Mike Zimmer, who was the defensive coordinator prior to getting the job in Minnesota. So he understood the game when he came there. You know, he was the defensive coordinator in Cincinnati under Marvin Lewis. Yeah. And made the playoffs every year. So he ended up with the head coaching job in Minnesota. But he has a quarterback in Sam Bradford who was the number 1 overall draft pick about 7 years ago in the NFL. Yeah. So he could play football, and everybody knew Sam Bradford could play football. He just stayed hurt. He has a decent offensive line in Minnesota that has protected him. And when you look at his passing percentage this year, Justin, this is what people have always expected of Sam Bradford. Yeah. But he's never had a defense around him such as the Minnesota Vikings are playing this year. They're the real monsters of the Central Division, is what they are. And they're going to put so many looks on Carson Wentz. Yeah. You know, everybody the first 3 games of the season talked about how great he was. He was the next coming of whoever.
Well, you always talk about Trent Dilfer, but Trent Dilfer's paid to say that stuff, Big C. You understand that, right? He said he played like a 5-year veteran, but where's Trent Dilfer now and Mel Kiper and all these guys, Big C?
He was also paid to play quarterback that he didn't do a good job at.
Yeah, well,
we had the Super Bowl win, but he played with a great defense.
Yeah, that's true, Big C, and we understand that sometimes even these guys disappear when their picks don't go well. But when you look at the Vikings, they have a great line and a defense that includes 4 linemen with 3 or more sacks. When we also look at the next game, the Cleveland Browns, they're 0-6 right now. They're at Cincinnati 2-4. That game's Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time on CBS Sports. And the Bengals are favored by 10 against their in-state rival. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, you know, you look at the Bengals. You know, this is a hard-luck game for Marvin Lewis. He has to win the game to maintain his job in Cincinnati, Charlton, because everybody's calling for his head to roll. Yeah. And if he loses to Cleveland, it will roll. He will not finish out the season in Cincinnati. He has some great offensive tools in Andy Dalton and A.J. Green. He has Green as running back also, along with, Bernard. Yeah, Bernard. You know, these guys can play offense. Yeah. But on defense, they have problems. Burfict has been suspended again, okay? Yeah. And he's been a trouble.
He's a joke. He's a head case, and he's a joke. Yeah.
I think that's the bigger part of Marvin Lewis keeping his job is not. Yeah. If he gets rid of Burfict, he can get a stay of execution there in Cincinnati by keeping his job. But he's held on to this guy, and this guy's been nothing but trouble. Yeah. He fined again last week for an unnecessary hit on Watson, the tight end from New England. Yeah. Where he went low and the ball wasn't even in the area. Yeah. I mean, it was as dirty hit.
Now, he's a bad character.
This guy has no place. He has no place in the NFL intentionally trying to cost players their career, Charlton. We've seen him hit Antonio Brown, a receiver from Pittsburgh. Yeah. You know, he was suspended the first 3 games of this season, Charlton. Yeah. And it wasn't enough for him. He came back and he's gotten suspended again. It's time for the league. You know, you talk about domestic violence. It's time for unnecessary violence to be put out of the NFL.
Well, a little bit about Vontaze Burfict. He played high school football in California at Corona Centennial down in Southern California, one of the top high schools in the country, Big C. And he was going to be heavily recruited by USC when Pete Carroll was there. That's when USC had their winning streak going with Reggie Bush and Leinart and those good old boys. But they knew some things were going on with him, so they didn't want to pick him on to USC. He ended up going to Arizona State, had the same type of attitude at Arizona State, but he reminds me of a guy that does so many things wrong, but because he plays football, they put up with it. Okay, I don't think you have any room for that. I don't care what color you are. We talk about the race issue in the United States, and we know it's real, but this guy, if he was not a football player, he wouldn't have a job, Big C, and I think they can make a statement by saying even this attitude is not tolerated, but unfortunately, we know that the NFL, they want the tough guys, the Lau Alzados, Big C, the guys that have that nasty John Matuszak mentality, and that's what he has, but I think he takes it a little bit too far, Big C. And also, the next game I want to bring up, the Washington Redskins, they're 4-2. They're actually looking pretty good, Big C. They're at the Detroit Lions, who are 3-3. That game is Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Fox. And the Lions are only favored by 1 point at home. Washington has won 4 in a row. Do they have what it takes to make it 5 in a row, Big C?
Well, when you think about Detroit, Charlton, they're a little thin at the running back position. They lost their top running back for this week's game. He's going to be out. So all the pressure is going to be on Matthew Stafford, Charlton. How well could he manage the game for Detroit without a solid running game behind him? And that's going to put a lot of pressure on the offensive line pass blocking.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, when you look at the Washington Redskins, they dominated the Philadelphia Eagles last week on the ground with 196 yards, I believe it was, rushing the ball. Splitting time between two running backs. Kirk Cousins has seemed to found his groove. And, he may be in line for that long-term contract in Washington. They've won their last 4 games.
Yeah.
He's been very stingy in the turnover department. So, I like the Washington Redskins in this game, Charlton. Kirk Cousins may be growing up as a quarterback, but that ground game is very solid for Washington right now. And we know in the NFL, if you can run the ball, you can win a football game.
Well, everyone understands that except for Jeff Fisher, Big C. And also, the next game we look at, the Oakland Raiders travel across the country. And this is a Raider team that gives up 444 yards total per game this season. That's not acceptable for a team that's in first place in their division. So far, they average about 380 yards of offense. So they're going across the country. They're 4-2 in the season. They have 2 of those wins because they went for it on 4th down, Big C, with Coach Jack Del Rio. And they're at Jacksonville, which is 2-3, which is a lot better than what their record is, Big C. And that game is Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. The Jacksonville Jaguars are only favored by 1. I think the Raiders can win if they play well on offense. But defensively, they can allow this game to turn into a shootout, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it will be a shootout, Charlton. You got Blake Bortles and you got Carr.
Yeah.
These 2 young quarterbacks can throw the ball. Blake Bortles a couple of years ago was the number 1 overall pick. That same draft, Derek Carr went in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
So these 2 guys are rising stars, or supposedly rising stars in the NFL.
Yeah.
Jacksonville's receiving core has developed. They're starting to catch the ball and get separation on secondaries. The Raiders, very anemic in their secondary. So this is an advantage for Jacksonville. You talked about how many yards the Raiders like to give up.
Yeah.
They were just blown away by Kansas City last week.
Yeah.
So if Jacksonville gets off to a fast start, this game is over early. The Raiders, they have a little jet lag going to the East Coast and playing an early game, Charlton, based on the West Coast time. So I like Jacksonville to get their 3rd victory of the season in this game.
Well, another great team that's really on the rise. They're made some changes. And this is the Buffalo Bills. They are 4-2 on the season, Big C, and they're playing on the road at Miami, which is 2-4. That game is Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. The Bills are only favored by 3. I know they're going down into the heat and humidity, Big C, but I know that Shady McCoy, he has a tight hamstring, so don't know what's going to happen with him. But I'm telling you, the Bills, they only need 2 more sacks to surpass the total number they recorded last year in 16 games. Their defense is playing lights out, Big C.
Well, you look at their offense. The offense is playing good all year long, even though they fired their offensive coordinator early in the season when they were averaging 30 points a game. I mean, they upped it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Since then, they scored 45 points last week on San Francisco. They shut out the New England Patriots a couple of weeks ago. This is a team that's on the road. They're on the rise. Miami, beat up on Pittsburgh when Ben Roethlisberger got hurt last week. But they had an excellent ground game also. They took the ball out of Tannehill's hand, let him hand it off, the safest thing that they could do without him throwing an interception.
Yeah.
So, this is a game that I do like the Bills with their momentum. On a 4-game winning streak, I don't see them slowing down, even without McCoy in the backfield. And also, the Dolphins are hurting some on the defensive line. The NFL is watching Ndamukong Suh for an unfortunate leg whip on Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary. We talked about dirty plays.
He and Vontaze perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe the NFL needs to send both of these guys on a vacation together for about a year and let them speak about what football is all about. It's about the respect of other players and not intentionally trying to injure somebody else through your stupidity.
Yeah, they play it like they're MMA fighters, Big C. And if you're going to be an MMA fighter, at least have the guts to get into the ring and do it. But why would you ever want to hurt your fellow team or your fellow brethren that play in the National Football League? It's such a tough spot to get in the first place, Big C. Ajayi had 204 yards rushing against the Steelers last weekend. They're really stepping up their running game. Also, the Baltimore Ravens, they are 3-3 on the road at the New York Jets that are 1-5. That Sunday, 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That game is broadcast by CBS Sports. The Jets are favored by 2. Your thoughts on that? Geno Smith, he's going to replace Ryan Fitzpatrick as the Jets starting quarterback, but they have a lot more problems than that, Big C. You're going to also have to find a way to get the ball to Brandon Marshall. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, you got Brandon Marshall, but you also have Aaron Decker, who's out with a rotator cuff surgery, Charlton.
Yeah.
That receiving core is down, and so Geno Smith is not going to get the full complement of Jet receivers. They've struggled, the past couple of games running the ball. Forte has not been able to get the job done, and maybe that's because of the offensive line, which hasn't been able to protect Ryan also and Fitzpatrick also.
Well,
that same problem is existing in Baltimore. You're starting 2 rookie offensive tackles.
Yeah.
So you don't have the greatest line of support for Flacco. Dean Smith has been on the injured, half of the season.
Yeah.
And so they don't have a starting running back that's a star. They're filling it in by committee. This is a pick'em game. But this is a game that not many people are expecting much out of Geno Smith. And I like games like that because Geno Smith can be really dangerous and play at a high level. Then all of a sudden, what do you have? Controversy in New York? No. You have a starting black quarterback.
What is it called? Is he Broadway Joe, Big C? In fact, Broadway Joe had a lot of success in New York. There was a lot of hype for Broadway Joe. But the Jets, when you think about the quarterback, and they got to find a way to get back to the Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, Big C. Also, another game that I want to bring up that should be somewhat interesting from a media standpoint, and I want to tell everyone, go watch the documentary 13th, because there's so much talk about domestic violence. We've been on it all year. The NFL is being big on it right now. All the radio stations all over the country are talking about this kid, Brown, from the New York Giants now, and how he beat up his wife, and Donald Trump's grabbing women by the crotch and says it's just locker room talk. I wonder what Donald Trump would say about what just happened to Brown, if he would say it's just good old boys being good old boys, Big C. But I want people to pay attention to this game coming up, because it'll be a media thing.
He'll say that it was rigged.
He'll say it is rigged. He'll say it's the media's fault.
Donald Trump would say that it was rigged. The media set him up. This really didn't happen. There's no reports of it. This will be Donald Trump's stance on the scenario.
Yeah, and unfortunately, people take it too lightly what he's doing and what these women are doing. He calls them pigs, and they're not good looking enough for him to grab them by the crotch. He hangs around teenage girls trying to make them feel uncomfortable, going into the locker room where they feel uncomfortable, but they have to put up with it because they wanted to win his beauty pageant, Big C. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are 2-3 on the season. They're at the San Francisco 49ers, who are 1-5. They're led by Colin Kaepernick, who had his first start last week in Buffalo. Had a decent game, especially in the first half, but the defense really has to get shored up, Big C. That game is Sunday at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox, and the Buccaneers are actually favored by 1 on the road in San Francisco. And one thing I want to say about the media out here in the Bay Area, because I'm out here, I've been out here most of my life, I've never seen such a media that is so against a quarterback, the only quarterback to take them to the Super Bowl since 1995, Big C. They're almost hoping that this guy will fail, and it's a shame, but most of that, it comes from Caucasian reporters and broadcasters, and I'm going to say it that way because it's true, Big C. Outside of that point, I want to get your thoughts on Winston and also Kaepernick, 2 African-American quarterbacks that are playing in this game, Big C.
Well, Charlton, even beyond those two, you got to look at the defense in this game. And San Francisco's last 2 opponents would have been the Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
And in both of those games, I think they gave up 150 yards to Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
And they gave up over 100 yards last week to Shady McCoy.
140-something, yeah.
And Josh Harris-Rogers is coming into this game, and he gained 123 yards last week. So there's a pattern right there with the San Francisco defense. It's not the quarterback as much as people want to say. It's the defense that can't stop the running game of the opposing team. So you can have 3 consecutive weeks, Charlton, of running backs gaining in excess of 120 yards against this 49er defense, which is keeping a quarterback off the field and not letting him get a rhythm. Jameis Winston has struggled, but now that he's found a running back in Jack Harris-Rogers, former Oregon State star, that can run the ball, Charlton, he's had some success. And the 49ers can't stop the run. And Colin Kaepernick did enough in the first half last week, but he didn't get the ball and any protection in the second half last week. Hopefully he'll be better this week. But I kind of like Tampa Bay in this game, Charlton, because they have a more solid running game. I take Rodgers over Hyde with San Francisco, and I give the edge to Tampa Bay.
Well, I want to say this segment is also sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports when you're looking to put people back to work. We're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to help put Americans back to work and protecting American families. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide. And we are the #1 show in the universe, Big C. And so there's no hanging chats with that, Big C. I want to make sure that people understand that. You sure you good old boys put in all the votes, Big C? They didn't leave any votes out, Big C?
We counted all the ballots once, twice. Some of them got wet so the ink ran a little bit, so it all the bases.
Well, Donald Trump said the vote was fixed, Big C. I just want you to know. He said he's going to launch a full investigation that the vote was fixed by some intergalactic source, Big C. Just beware of that, okay?
Well, maybe Donald means to fix his head and just let him go.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows he's bald. He's not fooling anybody because when he take a shower, he got hair hanging down on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And he got to whip it back up on his head.
And I'm not coming down on Donald Trump. And we know beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But we have a lot of women that listen to our program. But he's such a pickish person. I want to ask, how many women would really see Donald Trump and did not know that he was wealthy and would want to date that guy, Big C? I'm just trying to... I know beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Everybody likes what they like. But do you see women lining up to get his phone number if they don't know who he is, Big C? I just wonder why he thinks he can go around grabbing teenage women by the crotch and walking into the locker rooms when they're half naked and staring them up and down, and then he's on tape saying what he wants to do to them, and then when he's held accountable for it, he says, that wasn't me, it's the media. These women are all lying. It was his own voice, Big C. And speaking of the own voice, the San Diego Chargers are 2-4. They at the good old boy Atlanta Falcons that are 4-2. That game's Sunday at 4:05 Eastern Time on Fox. And the Falcons are only favored by 6.5. With the way Ryan is playing right now, the Chargers, they've been in all of their games, Big C. And since they upset the Denver Broncos, which we did not call an upset, Big C, they've been playing with more moxie. And I know your friend Julio Jones, since he did that fishing commercial, he's been on fire catching balls, but he let that last one in Seattle slip away, Big C, no pun intended. So your thoughts on this game, San Diego down playing the good old boys in Atlanta, Big C?
Well, I think that last pass in Seattle last week, he had a flashback on that fishing.
Yeah.
He didn't catch anything, Charlie.
Yeah.
So, you got to look. But, Julio is one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in the NFL. He's a beast.
Oh, he's amazing.
With size and speed, Charlton. Matt Ryan has had a phenomenal start of the season this year, getting the ball to Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah.
But, Antonio Freeman, the running back, has been the cog that has made this offense go in Atlanta, coming out of the backfield as well as running the ball. Seattle held him in check last week, and I think that was a key to their loss. But San Diego, as we said, they beat Denver.
Yeah.
So they can go up against a stout defensive team and come out and play. Phillip Rivers is going to throw the ball. They've been struggling running the ball in San Diego, so this is going to be a throw fest.
Yeah.
It's going to be the quarterback who has the ball in his hands last that will determine the victory in this game. That's how close this game is, Charlton. The last team with the football should win this game.
Well, I think the next game coming up is a marquee game. Unfortunately, we don't have Big Ben. The New England Patriots at 5-1 going into Pittsburgh, taking on the Steelers at 4-2 Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That game is on CBS Sports. And even without Big Ben, the Patriots are only favored by 7 to a team that was blown out in Miami. The Steelers are not the same with Big Ben. Big C, your thoughts on this game?
Patriots win, Johnson.
Yeah. Okay. In the okay, Las Vegas. And then the next, you sound like some of those guys on TV, Big C, that don't have a teleprompter. They're just stuck. They say next, please. But I agree with you. The Patriots win on that one. And now another game that I really think is going to shape the NFC West. We have the Seattle Seahawks at 4-1. They're on the road down in the desert playing the Arizona Cardinals that are 3-2, and they're better than their record shows, even though they lost 2 games, 2 tough games. That's Sunday at 8:30 Eastern Time on NBC Sports with the great Al Michaels Now, the Cardinals are favored by 2. I disagree with that. I think the Seahawks, even though they don't have Cam Chancellor in there, I like the way the Seahawks play. They step it up. They're going right back to the scene of the crime where they lost the Super Bowl against the Patriots a couple of seasons ago. But I love the way the Seahawks play football. And to me, a little bit, Palmer's not the same Palmer that he was a couple of seasons ago. Your thoughts on this game, Big C?
Well, the receiving core, Seattle has proven that they can shut down any receiving core, and that's the main course towards the Phoenix Cardinals is their receiving core. Johnson's a good running back, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Carson Palmer has not been the Carson Palmer we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so he's struggled. The defense has given up a lot of points this year. But I like Seattle coming off that victory, the momentum that they got against Atlanta.
Yeah.
A very stout offensive team.
Yeah. And
the defense played well, which we've known Seattle for being a stout defensive team over the past 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll has his thumb back on the blueprint of the Seattle defense. And I like Seattle in this game, Charlton, by at least a touchdown.
Final game coming up, Big C, and this is the game with the Houston Texans at 4-2, at the Denver Broncos also 4-2. The media is going to build this game as Brock Osweiler returning to the team that traded him because he wasn't good enough, and they're realizing right now that he's not playing worth $72 million. We talk about what a buck can do for you. What can $72 million do for you? It makes you 4-2, and they're doing it by their defense, even though they don't have Watt in there, Big C. That game is Monday night at 8:30 p.m. an Eastern Standard Time game on ESPN, and they have the Broncos favored by 9. And it's ironic that the Broncos are favored by 9 against a team that has a quarterback that's worth $72 million. Your thoughts on this game? It's going to be a very physical game, especially by the Broncos defense. Big C, your thoughts on this game coming up?
Okay, Charlton. Where did Brock Osweiler play last year?
He played for the Broncos. Well, he played on the bench, but he also played for the Broncos, Big C.
Okay, and who did he have to practice against last year, Charlton?
He had to practice against a defense that's a lot tougher than that girl he pushed twice down in Texas, Big C.
Okay, so he had to practice against Denver's first-team quarterback when Peyton Manning was the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So this is a defense that's very well versed in what Brock Osweiler can and cannot do.
Yeah.
They know of his lack of mobility. They know, so you can expect a lot of blitzing from Denver's defense. Brock Osweiler has also showed that he's skittish in the pocket.
Yeah.
He has an excellent receiving core, but when you're skittish and you can't get your feet planted, you can't get the ball to these guys, Charlton. I like what Denver's defense is going to do, that linebacking core coming after Brock Osweiler. And I think if they hit him hard a couple of times, he'll give up early and just fold the tit.
Yeah,
I think Trevor Siemian is back off the shoulder injury. We know that Anderson can run the ball, and Denver has a good receiving core itself.
Yeah.
But I like Denver being at home. I like the situation that they're in defensively. I think Brock Osweiler will be scared, not having a chip on his shoulder, but he's worried about that monkey on his back, Charlton.
Yeah, he's also worried that they might start showing that image of him pushing a woman twice and realize that's not acceptable. So, and this is a serious note too. Just want to touch on it, guys, because most people won't, Big C. When everyone's upset about Brown, and we know that a lot of the African American players who had domestic violence, they were just kicked off the team or kicked out of the league. But they happen to be black. This is a white guy that they showed every form of favor they could 20 different times, okay? It's ironic that women are battered like every 20 seconds in this country, in the great country, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and it took 20 times for this to come and make him have some type of payback, Big C. But again, and you're only going to hear this on Charlton and Big C Sports, listen up, world media. The same issue with Brock Osweiler, they will not even touch on it as they go into this game and play the Denver Broncos. Domestic violence is real, but if you are a sycophant to these athletes, it happens by more people in mainstream society. But we are the ones with the microphone that can say, hey, this is not tolerated. It's not tolerated. Don't defend it. I don't care if it's Donald Trump or anybody else. And if you defend it, just put your mother or your daughter or your wife out there and let some man brutalize her and just say it's just boys being boys. I think it's despicable, and we got to find a way to put a stop to it. Big C, one more thing I want to touch on for the NFL. And I think when we talk about quarterbacks and how great people are, this game with Denver and also the Houston Texans going in there, if you look at players over the years that have gone on to do more than just play sports, Big C, they've actually done something with their money. And we talked about it being socially conscious. I want to thank Russell Wilson for the Seattle Seahawks. Not only is he a great athlete, but he's a guy who's he's put together business, and a lot of people do. But here's a guy who does so much for the community. He has a couple of companies that he's trying to help take and make the next new entrepreneurs. And he works with people, or he's inspired by people like Ariana Huffington and also Chad Hurley, who's the co-founder of YouTube. And if you think about Huffington, she met Wilson after she sold the Huffington Post to AOL in 2011 for more than $300 million, Big C. So here's an athlete that's partnering with intelligent people, and they're trying to create jobs. Now contrast him from Donald Trump, who wants to grab women by the crotch and other body parts, and these people, the pundits on TV, they're saying it's okay. I mean, it's a shame. But I appreciate Russell Wilson. I hope that more athletes can do that. Charlton and Big C Sports, we're also trying to hire licensed insurance brokers. So I'm so proud of the men and women who are stepping up to be more than just a sports reporter or a sports broadcaster. Big C, you brought that to my mind. Your thoughts on Russell Wilson and other athletes, whether it's LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, guys that are trying to create jobs. We know what Magic Johnson has done after his career. They're creating jobs for people. They just happen to be African-American, but we don't hear about that as much as some guy, kicking the goalpost or throwing his helmet to the ground. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's not the light that the mainstream media wants to shine on African-American athletes. They want to see the buffoonishness of someone like an Odell Beckham. They want to make a spectacle of him. Instead of talking about how African-American athletes have gone out and be solid contributors in society, they want to make a mockery of Colin Kaepernick's stand for injustice, even though they're advocates for injustice, Charlton, because they don't speak in Kaepernick's behalf. So you're an advocate if you're not speaking in his behalf of the racial and social injustice that goes on in America, Charlton.
Yeah.
So when we have these proud African-American athletes, former and present, being solid members and productive businessmen in society in America, there's more than what you think about. When you also think about Martellus Bennett, the tight end for the New England Patriots, who's in production, who's working on studio shows and stuff, and cartoons, written books. These things are not told about African-American athletes, Charlton, in society. These are the things that the national media does not want the national public to know, that African-American athletes are intelligent, entrepreneurial people like mainstream America, Charlton. And these are the stories that we don't want to hear. So let them be known that
I want to hear it, Big C. I want to hear it, and I challenge you and I, because we're not perfect, and sometimes we make mistakes. I know you drink too much moonshine, and I kid you about the good old boys down south.
I don't make mistakes. Let's be clear, man. I don't make mistakes.
Okay, no, I'm sorry.
I might misspeak, but I don't make mistakes. Okay? What comes out of my mouth is intentional.
Okay.
It might be misspoken, but it's intentional. It's not a mistake. All right? Let's get that.
I understand. I learned a lot, Big C. But I just want to congratulate these young men, because the Black Lives Matter movement is about men and women. And if you haven't watched the documentary 13th, it's a documentary. You can only see it on Netflix. I don't know why it's not in every theater in the country, but you can only see it on Netflix. It shows you how beautiful our country is, and it shows you how we can fix a few things if we're conscious of it. So congratulations, Ms. Duvernay. Love your program. I think everyone, especially if you're a woman, you gotta see 13th. It's a documentary on Netflix. Big C, last thing I want to say is this segment is sponsored by Beneath This Wings Foundation.org and CYN Entertainment. When it comes to promotion, Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. And I just want to finish with this, Big C. There's a lot of college football going on, and everybody loves that. Big game with Alabama and Texas A&M. Oregon's playing Cal in another big game. And we have a lot of good things happening around the world in college football. But more important than that, I congratulate Russell Wilson for not only being a dual sport athlete, but someone who's taken his money, Big C, and he's pouring it in to young people. But you don't hear more about that. You hear more about the antics that go on with certain people. And I think he's such a tribute to our society. I'm not saying he's perfect, because nobody is. But here's a guy, his charitable foundation thus far has helped raise more than $1 million for the Seattle Children's Hospital. Okay? You've never heard about it on television. You've heard about guys kicking field goals and throwing their helmets down and getting fined for dancing in the end zone. I would hope that the NFL could also take guys with this example and showcase them around the world more so than someone they're going to punish. Your thoughts again on Big C. What can athletes do to put their money where their mouth is, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you spoke about it. Even Colin Kaepernick donated the first $1 million that he made this year to domestic violence and civil rights support.
Yeah.
Okay? So when we're looking at this, and we're looking at it from African American athletes who are donating out to society, to help those less fortunate, Charlton, it does not go warranted on national television.
Yeah.
This is not the story they want to tell. They want to tell the story of Odell Beckham throwing his helmet, throwing rants and raves. They want to talk about Vontaze Burfict being a dirty player. They don't want to talk about the African-American player. They don't want to talk about Josh Brown beating the crap out of his former wife.
Yeah.
They didn't hear about that on national media until we wrote it for a month, Charlton.
Yeah.
And because all of these guys copy our format in what they do, you can see it in 24 to 48 hours on any of these network programs, whether it's the NFL Network, ESPN, Fox. Guys, I want to thank you. I honestly do. I want to give a big thanks and a shout-out to ESPN, Fox Sports, and NFL Network for listening to Charlton and Big C Sports every day, taking what we do, copying it, trying to make it your own. You've done it with a couple skits. With Big C, this guy you're using, Chris Canty.
Yeah.
He's not Big C because he's only reading what you give him. He doesn't talk real. He's not passionate about what he do, such as I am.
Yeah.
I want to thank ESPN for putting together the skit with Julio Jones. Got him out catfishing on a band.
he didn't catch any fish. He didn't catch any fish though, Big C, and he was wearing makeup.
He was wearing makeup and couldn't catch a fish. So guys, I want to give homage to you and much due appreciation for taking and stealing our product, putting it on air.
Yeah.
But at least be honest like we are. Don't script it. Be truthful.
Yeah.
Tell the truth about everything. You can steal skits about us, but don't take what we do and not speak about it. Speak about domestic violence. Speak about the reality of sports. Tell the truth about athletes. Tell the truth about African-American athletes who are positive role models in society. Tell the truth about what Colin Kaepernick is doing and what his stance is about.
Yeah.
Be honest. Don't just sit there and be a sycophant saying, well, we don't appreciate what he's doing. He's more American than you are because at least he's taking a social conscious stance.
Yeah.
Instead of just collecting a paycheck.
And that's why
he knows that he puts his career in jeopardy, Charlton, over his social beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay? Over his social beliefs against everybody else. But he figures that these lives that are being lost unpatriotically.
Yeah, Big C.
Because there's no reason for them to lose their lives.
Well, think about.
And he knows it's wrong. America knows it's wrong. Let it happen to your family. Let these broadcasters, let it happen to their family.
Yeah.
And see what their stance will be at that point, Charlton.
And see that is so powerful, Big C, because if you have the opportunity to reach out and do something great in this country, we always talk about how great Dr. Martin Luther King was, but this man had death threats against his family. He had people beating him up and sicking dogs on him and being sprayed with water hose. That was white society that did that. That wasn't a black society that did it. It wasn't the media that was sicking dogs on black Americans just trying to vote. That wasn't the media that was taking black men and lynching them. That wasn't the media. That was people who had this search and frisk mentality that you have with former Mayor Rudy Giuliani. It's unconstitutional, but he wants to implement it again if Donald Trump is president by some sick reason, and he wants to do the stop and frisk. That's why you got to see 13th. Everybody, if you wonder about Colin Kaepernick, what he's talking about, let your kids and watch it with your kids. The documentary 13th. It's very educational. It's eye-opening. And if you have a daughter anywhere in the country, no matter what political affiliation or religious affiliation, have them watch the documentary 13th. It is so powerful. If you don't see it, you're really missing out on something. Big C, I just want to say a few more things about the world of college football, and then I'll have you close it out. I know there's a lot of big games going on. We have North Carolina playing Louisville. Texas is Kansas State. You have Rutgers in Minnesota. TCU is playing at West Virginia in a big game. Oklahoma State at Kansas. Utah and UCLA is going to be a big game for UCLA. That game's at the Rose Bowl. We have Houston at SMU, Ohio State at Penn State, Mississippi at LSU, and Oklahoma at Texas Tech, Big C. But I know the good game, and probably the only game you care about, is Alabama and Texas A&M, Big C. I just want you to give your thoughts on the Alabama-Texas A&M, and then I'll have you close out the show, Big C. You think, does Texas A&M have a chance, Big C?
Texas A&M has more than they haven't beaten Alabama in 3 years, since 2012. But they have more than a chance. They have a quarterback in Trevor Knight, and they have a big receiver that causes Alabama a lot of problems. this game is a lot closer than the 19 points down being
That's
made
crazy. Yeah.
And they raised it to 19 points to get people to put money on A&M, Charlton.
Yeah.
I like A&M if you're going on the betting line. I'd like A&M to make this game closer than what you've seen. This is an offensive-minded team. They have a great pass rusher. The thing we haven't seen from the young Alabama quarterback is the ability to dominate a football game through the air, Charlton. So if this game is close, if A&M can hold down Alabama's running game, A&M has a chance to win this game because now they force the kid to throw the ball. And that can be the difference. Trevor Knight, we know he can throw the ball.
Yeah.
Former Oklahoma quarterback, lost his job to Mayfield, transferred as a graduate transfer at A&M.
Yeah.
And when you're playing with Kevin Sumlin and you're a mobile quarterback, things can happen in your positive. So this is a game that's not a 19-point game, Charlton. This is more of a 6 to 8-point game with Alabama, Texas A&M.
I agree with you, Big C, and that's going to be probably the most watched college football game on Saturday. That's a 12:30 p.m. start on CBS. Also a big game in the Pac-12. Colorado, they're back. They're at Stanford. That's a noon kickoff on the Pac-12 network, and they follow Charlton and Big C Sports. So I want to say as we come to a conclusion that Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, we are the #1 sports show in the universe, Big C, and I believe that, you good old boys, I trust that the voting was accurate, so I'm not going to worry about Donald Trump saying he wants a recount just in case, Big C. And I want to thank everyone for listening in because we are a social station, and I don't care who you are as a broadcaster. We have people that listen in from as far away as Dubai. We have people that listen in from Australia, people from Germany, people from Canada, because the iHeartRadio network, it is the #1 media network in the world, Big C. Actually, in the country, of course. And I just want people to understand this. I'm so proud of what we are doing. Well, not only are we cutting edge when it comes to sports and real talk, everybody knows that we are anti-discrimination, we are anti-racism, we are anti-sexism. We don't care who you are. We just want people to be treated fair and treat people the way you want to be treated. But if somebody's doing wrong, you got to call them out, even if it's us. Sometimes we make mistakes. You know, sometimes I go down and get in the car with Big C and he drives too fast. You know, I made a mistake. I understand, Big C. I'm not going to jump in the swamp anymore and fish for alligators with you good old boys, Big C. That was a mistake for me, too. But I want to say this. We like to have fun. We want to make sure we keep women safe. But Big C, I want to say, if you can close the show by saying how any athlete can help keep women safe. That garbage that Donald Trump is spewing, he denies everything after saying he's going to grab you by the crotch, and you have some women who have daughters, and they say that's okay. That's not okay. It's called a crime. Big C, how do we keep women safe in this world of sports that we all love so much, Big C? Go right ahead, sir.
Well, Charlton, I think about the decades that I've been involved in sports as a player, as a broadcaster, and even as a viewer, even as a former coach, Charlton. I think about the players that I've been involved with and how they've respected women. I mean, everybody stands there and looks and dogs and games. But there's not this belligerent talk about how you want to abuse a woman.
Yeah.
You know, people have private lives, and we can't condone everybody's private life. But the thing about it, being a public figure, you have to show the utmost respect publicly for these people. Women are cherished in American society. You know, I have a mother, I have sisters, I have nieces, and these people are, and I even have daughters. You know, these people to me are cherishable, Charlton. You cannot harm a woman in American society. Your job as a man is to protect a woman.
Yeah.
I don't care whether you're an athlete, whether you're corporate American, whether you're a politician. Your job in America is to protect a woman. You show me one man that does not want to protect his daughter, and that's how you should treat every woman. The way that you want to treat your daughter, every woman should be respected in that same light. Your wife, your mother, your sister, your friend, your neighbor. Treat them like you treat your daughter, and we will not have domestic violence anymore in America, Charlton.
Well, Big C, I love the way you bring that up. And so everybody, have a good time this weekend. Enjoy sports. Enjoy all the things that make you happy. But there's no room for domestic violence. No, don't tolerate it. Just call 911. Let's keep everybody safe. We can all agree to disagree, and there's nothing wrong with that. Watch the documentary 13th. You can only see it on Netflix. And tweet out that Charlton and Big C heard it first and told you about it. And I'm going to tell you like we always do. We talk to everybody all over the country about sports and how do we keep people safe and how do we create jobs for everybody. And it's something that every American can do because this is the greatest country on the planet as long as we have the right to keep our freedom of speech. You don't always have to like it, but at least respect the fact that we have it here in the United States. And as we always tell you, every single Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, you can follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeart Radio Network with the #1 sports show in the universe. And we always like to leave the show by saying this: we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.